Okay, so when it comes to getting better sleep or just, calming down a little, a lot of people are turning to this one vibrant wildflower, the California poppy. It's everywhere as a natural solution, but does the science actually back that up? Let's dig in.
I mean, who hasn't been there? Staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning or just feeling completely wound up during the day. If you've ever gone looking for a natural remedy for that feeling, chances are you've stumbled across the California poppy.
So what is this thing, really? How did this pretty little flower go from growing on the side of the road to ending up in a capsule in the wellness aisle? Well, meet Eschscholzia californica. That's the official name. It's actually the state flower of California. And with nicknames like Cup of Gold and California Sunlight, you can totally see why. Its bright, cheerful flowers are just beautiful. But its story? Well, it definitely doesn't end in the garden.
You see, for centuries, people have been using this plant in folk medicine, believing it had these sedative, calming effects. And now, that tradition has been bottled up into modern supplements that claim to help you relax, sleep better, and even ease mild pain. You'll often see it paired up with other calming herbs, like valerian root, for example.
Okay, so that's the claim, that's the story. But what about the science? Let's take a look at how California poppy is actually supposed to create these calming effects inside our bodies. The main theory really boils down to this thing called the GABA connection. So the plant has these active compounds called alkaloids, and these alkaloids are thought to interact with GABA receptors in our brain. Now, the easiest way to think about GABA is like the brake pedal for your nervous system. It's the neurotransmitter that tells your brain to slow down, to chill out, which helps you feel calm and get to sleep. So the idea is that the poppy's alkaloids help push that brake pedal. That theory sounds pretty solid, right? It makes sense. But a good theory, well, it needs good proof. So what happens when we go looking for the actual hard scientific evidence to back all this up? And this is where things get really surprising. When you actually dig into the research on California poppy specifically for sleep, you find one. That's it. Just a single human study is cited in our source material. In that one study, it found that a combo of California poppy and valerian root did seem to improve sleep, but, and this is a huge but, there are major problems here. First, there was no placebo group. That's a giant red flag in research. Second, the researchers actually worked for the company that made the supplement. And maybe most important of all, the poppy was never tested by itself. We have no way of knowing if it was the poppy, the valerian, or maybe just the combination that had any effect at all. And when we look at the research for anxiety, the picture really isn't much clearer. There's an older study from back in the early 2000s that showed some promise when the poppy was mixed with hawthorn and magnesium. But again, the research is super outdated and we see that same critical problem. California poppy has not been studied on its own, in isolation, in humans, for anxiety. This quote from our source, Healthline, really just says it all. Without any studies on the ingredient by itself, we simply do not know if it's effective for anything. The evidence just isn't there to support it. Okay, so even if the benefits are a massive question mark, we still have to ask the next logical question. Is it safe? And that's a critical thing to know about any supplement you're thinking of taking. And yeah, there are some real concerns here. Our source warns that California poppy might interact with some pretty serious medications like common blood thinners and blood pressure drugs. And because there's so little research, we literally have no idea if high doses are safe. This is exactly why you should absolutely talk to your doctor before you even think about trying it. All right, so we've looked at the traditional claims, the scientific theory, the major lack of evidence, and the potential risks. Let's put it all together and figure out what the real evidence-based bottom line is. So after all of that, the big question remains, should you actually take it? And the verdict is, the evidence is just insufficient. The source material is really clear on this. Right now, there is no scientific basis to suggest California poppy is effective on its own for treating anything. Not sleep, not anxiety, nothing. Its effectiveness is, frankly, unknown. Now, the good news is that if you are looking for some natural support, there are other options out there that have much, much more science behind them. Things like magnesium, melatonin, and even valerian root, the herb the poppy was paired with in that one study, they've all been studied way more on their own. And this all leaves us with a really big, important question to think about. The word natural sounds great, it's appealing, but natural is not the same thing as proven. The whole story of the California poppy is just a perfect reminder to always dig a little deeper and ask, okay, but what does the evidence actually say? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.